Hello everybody, I hope you're having a wonderful day, and today I would like to share with you all my final thoughts on the Asher Knives Wharncliffe Spiro, however you want to pronounce it. I did pick this guy off of the website. I was notified mainly through Instagram. I did sign up on their notify me email thing list, and even after it dropped and after I purchased it, I still never got anything. So I don't know, maybe there's something going on the website, but absolutely, if you want to get a hold of one of these and you want to be there when it happens, go ahead and follow Asher Knives on Instagram. I'm sure there are probably other media platforms, but that's just the one that I have experience with. That's how I was able to get a hold of this guy. And also the one I got in previously was the full tie Spiro. This is a drop point. I believe this guy is in 20 CV. This one right here actually is an S90V, manufactured by Petrified Fish. Now in the unboxing, I do apologize, I got my information messed up. It's completely my fault. These are made by Petrified Fish. The titanium ones are made by Kunwu. Now I'm going to be doing a little bit of side-by-side comparison. I do not believe that one is better than the other. It really just comes down to preference. I believe that the pricing on these is just ridiculous, just incredible how much knife and wonderful, useful utilitarian design you are getting for your money. These are probably some of the highest recommended overseas production knives that I can actually just recommend. They're that good. I have a lot to say about these, and it's really going to be all positive. There's probably only two basically insignificant negatives. To most people, it's just not going to matter, but things that I do believe are worth mentioning. So we're going to go ahead and start off. If I didn't mention the price, this one and the full tie, they're well under 150. I think they float around like 130, 135, something like that. That's freaking beautiful. Like you will not get that and cannot get that anywhere else, at least to my knowledge at this moment, for what this thing is and the manufacturing quality. You might be able to find some stuff from Tucson, but then you gotta go and risk having poorly heat treated blade material and really wacky designs. Tucson makes some cool stuff and some really weird stuff. So I haven't had a lot of luck with Tucson's recently. There isn't really much that's piqued my interest, unfortunately. But these guys, holy shit, they're freaking good. So let's start with some size comparisons. Let's do from largest to smallest, I suppose. We could start with the Wee Praxis right here. And Sencut Glide Strike. So definitely this is a more smaller, compact carry. I wouldn't call it like a mini knife. It's definitely a medium towards the smaller side, I suppose. Something a little bit closer in size, but still a little bigger. This Civivi Vision FG. Spyderco Manix 2 lightweight. Last two, a little bit more compact. CMB Made Knives Predator. It's just a little bit longer, not by much. And the smallest, for comparison's sake, Spyderco Native 5. So it's in between these two guys in overall length. Alrighty, so like I said, plenty of good things here, but I do want to do a side-by-side comparison. There are some key differences that I believe are worth mentioning between the two. I think there's already some content showing off both of these, maybe in a head-to-head and comparison between the two. I do want to start off with saying, while showing both of these guys off, that the action is different, the cutting performance is different, the feel in hand is different, and the feel in and out of the pocket is different. So let's start off with the action on these guys. This has skiffs. This used to have skiffs. Now the action with the caged bearings from the factory, and if anybody is interested, these have 5mm pivots, and they take 1/16 bearings. So if you want to go ahead and pick up some skiffs or whatever other bearing aftermarket brand that you like to buy into, there's that information. So those are the same similarities, but they do feel very different. The skiffs made a night and day difference with the Thai one, manufactured by Kunwu. It is absolutely incredible feeling. This feels like a very expensive knife now, and it's not. It's $135 around there. So that's awesome. This guy, the skiffs didn't really do much for it. The skiffs allowed me to not crank down on the pivot as much and still get the same amount of side to side solidity. But when it came to the smoothness and I suppose the dropping action, I don't really see much difference. Now you could argue that I probably could have spent a little bit more time with the skiffs installed, but the simple fact that the skiffs made a night and day difference with this, with just a couple of days of wearing in with the skiffs, and this went about a week with skiffs and it stayed the same. I guess you could say consistency is nice, but I didn't see an improvement in particular. So the ceramic bearings that they come with are just fine. So that is my experience. This is a very well-tuned knife. Did it myself, of course. So 0 side to side, up or down is absolute, and it's beautiful. Now when it comes to the drop sheddiness, you could see that it definitely comes down to the nail, and that little tab right there is going to hit you, which I absolutely love that. It looks like it's almost a remnant of what would have been a flipper tab, but it's not. It's just how the blade blanks are cut out, and I love it because that little tab keeps your nail saved from getting hit by that live edge there. Depending on how aggressive you do your edges when you go to sharpen, that'll eventually it'll wear down your nail, and if you're not in the best of health, your nails could eventually split. I get little scratches here and there, but I'm usually able to just use a little filer and just sand it off, and it hasn't even bit down too deep. So I've never really had an issue with getting like a split on my nail. I have seen some people that have some pretty fucked up looking thumbs from deployment and having really aggressive edges and heavy blades drop onto them. But I do absolutely enjoy the tiny little detail of having that tab that is out of the way visually speaking. It is just for safety and comfort's sake. So you can disengage with this extremely comfortable liner here. That's another thing that I wanted to point out, that the liners are actually designed quite differently. Now I will give the comfort to the one manufactured by Kunwu just a little bit more. As you can see, these are shaped and designed just a little bit differently. So carbon fiber one has these little like dimples milled in for texture traction, I suppose, and it's chamfered, rounded off very well. Now the one manufactured by Kunwu, this Thai one here, has these little lines milled through them, but it's also chamfered as well. It's not crisp or sharp on going the opposite way, so that's very comfortable as well. You're not going to feel that pinching your skin. I have experienced that on other inset linered knives, where the actual Thai and the steel liner are just finished very crisp, and they almost pinch your skin when you go to disengage. These were rounded off to perfection. Same thing with this, the carbon fiber. It's not crisp, it's not jagged by any means, and the opposing side of the steel liner right in there is very well rounded off, and it's not going to pinch you. That's my experience, at least. So the deployment and disengagement of these knives are just freaking beautiful. Now looking at the deployment hole, a little bit different because of the blade shape mainly. The hole is completely exposed on this, and it's not perfectly symmetrical. It tapers down a little bit here, so it's kind of like a Mike and Ike's shaped hole, but a little oblong, I suppose. It's a little wider up here, a little bit tighter down there. Same thing with this one. It's just slightly different. The holes are actually, they have the tiniest little chamfer and then rounded off by being thrown into a tumbler to give the finish that is on both of these blades. The finish is quite the same pretty much. You could see one has just has a little bit more use than the other one, but these were only purchased like 2, maybe 3 weeks apart. So it's not like my titanium one that I got first. Like I've had it for years and it's just like worn down to shit or patinaed. No, this is a relatively fresh knife. So there's not too much of an age between the two when it came to being produced. So the blades are finished quite the same, have the same amount of sheen on them. The plunge grind on both of them is a little bit better on the one from Kunwu. It just seems a little bit more streamlined, a little bit more precision to it. At least that's what I see. You can see that there's this large sharpening trail. I absolutely love that. And you get the same design here as well. But you could see the plunge right there. It's a little bit shorter, it's a little crisper, and it doesn't just have that like nice swooping transition of a flow, and that translates to a better experience when it comes to sharpening. So these both have received edges. This has been sharpened twice already, reprofiled. So this has like 17 degrees. This one as well has 17 degrees. And they're both incredible when it comes to, after sharpening, their performance has just gone up tremendously. But I will say that because the plunge grind on this isn't as smooth of a transition, it's kind of short and abrupt there. You can see the shadow of the actual plunge there, versus this, it's a little bit larger, has a little bit more space right there. I actually hit with my stones a tiny bit on the shouldering right there. It's damn near unnoticeable unless you really point it out. But chances are, moving forward, I'm gonna have to be a little bit more conscious of that with my stones because of how they're shaped. Now I use the Wicked Edge sharpening system, and their stones are, there's not much you can do to really compensate for that. So there are some designs and some knives I just don't even bother purchasing because I know I'm probably gonna fuck them up. This guy is a whole lot easier to sharpen because of the execution of the plunge grind. It's just a little bit better, not by much. So the disengagement on this is extremely comfortable. The action on them, they're both incredible in their own right, but for some reason, the carbon fiber one here produced by Petrified Fish, it just feels a little bit tighter. It feels a little bit more premium. I know that's really weird to say because this is manufactured by Kunwu. And I know there's a lot of fans that I'm going to be in the minority here. While I love this, and it will be seeing some modification in the near future through anodizing and some torching of the steel components, I love this thing. It's awesome. But in comparison to this one, for some reason, this one just feels a little bit more expensive. The action when it goes to actually just pop the blade out, whether it's reverse flick or thumb flick, it just feels absolute for how light this actually is and how slim it is overall. This isn't a hard use knife by any means. Like, don't get me wrong. It's just a damn near perfect just EDC design that has a little bit more of an aggressive blade shape. And it's just comfort all around. There really isn't much that was missed here. I love the way how the carbon fiber, it's not flat, it's actually contoured, but of course you're going to have the pivots here that protrude a little bit, and you can't really compensate for that when it comes to having contoured scales. But I don't mind it. It doesn't look bad by any means. So there's that. T8 hardware for the minimal body screws there. You have a little carbon fiber matching backspacer. You could see the opposing grind. I forgot what it's called, the actual grain side versus the weave side. And for the pocket clip, you can move it to the other side. And it's a T6. Would have really been nice if it was a T8 just for ease of maintenance. So I mean, it's the most minor inconvenience, and that was one of the things that a lot of people just aren't gonna give a shit about when it comes to negatives. There is so little about this knife that's actually negative. It's damn near perfect. I love the fact that the liners, so it does have a steel liner on both sides, so the bearings are running, you know, on those liners, and there is some weight relief. It doesn't feel dense by any means. We can go ahead and take the weight on this guy. I believe I did this on the unboxing as well, but just for the sake of this video. 3.3, nothing to complain about. I feel that that is very appropriate. We can go ahead and do the titanium one just cause. 3.8, not too much of a difference when you're getting very different materials overall. So this guy's flat tie, very well contoured around, you know, the edges and stuff, very well finished. This, it just feels a little bit more comfy in hand. So it's kind of funny because this is an aggressive looking blade shape, but this is such a comfy design in hand. A little bit of jimping there on the spine, nothing crazy, it's not aggressive. It would have been nice if it went up a little bit further, maybe half up where the hole is, so maybe 5 or 6 more little jimps just to get a little bit more of that texture traction. But again, this isn't something you're going to be doing a lot of hard use with. You can spine whack it if you want. It's not really going to prove much. This is a, you know, inset liner. They're pretty robust for what they are, but again, not a hard use design at all. One other little thing that I noticed about getting this guy was that there aren't any extras. You get what you pay for. It would have been nice if maybe for a little bit more you get like one extra body screw and then maybe one more wire pocket clip. That would have been nice, just because wire pocket clips, a lot of people don't like them. I don't mind it so much. I think that functionally speaking, they're perfectly fine. In and out of the pocket of any sort of pant material that I have zero problem. It does get a little bit tight because that pocket clip screw is domed, but it's plenty of room for my pants. So there's not too much tension, but it's also not floating above the scale, so it's not a tapper, so that's nice. It's definitely a shorty clip. It's less than half of the overall length of the handle, so that's nice. You're not going to feel it on hand. It's not a hot spot. Everything is very well rounded. And again, probably said this like 10 times already, this is a very comfortable, just simple design that's made with wonderful materials, and we don't see silver carbon fiber in the production side of this hobby almost ever. I mean, there are plenty of people in the aftermarket making custom scales. I've seen stuff on like Para 3s and PM2s from Spyderco with it, and it looks beautiful with different milling patterns and all that kind of stuff. But this doesn't have any milling or texturing to it, but it has this kind of like matte feel. It's not slick. It does look reflective and shiny, but I promise you it feels like smooth textured G10. That's what it kind of feels like to me. So not super grippy in hand, but if you are to get a good enough purchase on this, kind of being behind that little space right there, this is a comfortable design. It's not gonna really go anywhere. If you want to go and pinch grip this, or use it for get down with that tip and do some score cutting, this is an excellent design for that as well. Now with the titanium one, it's just a little bit different, not by much, but you can definitely feel that the other one is more for comfort. This is, I suppose, more for the preference of titanium. There are people that are absolute titanium hoes, and I'm one of them. I love titanium. It would have been so cool if this was swappable. Now, because they are manufactured by two different companies, I don't believe that they are swappable. I have not tried it yet, but I just might. It would take too long to do that on camera, but it would be cool to swap these two blades. And they do genuinely feel like completely different knives because they're made by two different entities, right? But they're just under the same brand. Now, the difference when it comes to this clip is that this is ultra deep carry. And I do, every once in a while, when it comes to really thin pockets, I do tend to notice that if I have really thin pant material with the pocket seam, that it kind of rounds over and follows that loop all the way up and over, and it kind of gets snagged a little bit, but not by much. It's nothing crazy. It's hardly noticeable. You can accommodate for that. This of course doesn't run into that issue, but this is, you know, a nice solid sturdy steel clip. This is a bent wire clip. This looks a little bit nicer, this not so much. With the way that the scales accommodate for the wire clip, I don't know if they would accept Lynch Northwest alternative clips, possibly. I don't have any available to me to test it because I don't have other knives in my collection that have the need for a Lynch clip. So there's that. I mean, you might be able to find that or ask somebody that probably know a little bit better, like, you know, Asher Knives themselves, or even Lefty EDC. I know he has one of these guys and he's loving it. He also has a shit ton of experience when it comes to Lynch Northwest clips because a lot of his Devo knives accept them, and they make a point to make sure that a lot of their designs accept aftermarket clips just to feed into the hobby and help support a friend within the hobby when it comes to aftermarket pieces that are made in the US like Lynch Northwest. So that's really awesome. So I can't say for certain that these accept those clips, so, you know, take that with, you know, what it is. But that's really it. One is most definitely not better than the other. They both have their positives and basically no realistic negatives. These are just incredible knives. But one last thing that I wanted to mention is that here on the one manufactured by Petrified Fish, there is the tiniest bit of movement within the pivot. I suppose you want to call that pivot lash. It's so tiny. You really gotta yank on that thing, but it's almost non-existent. On the one manufactured by Kanwu, it's about twice as much. So that's also something else that I believe is worth mentioning, but really doesn't negatively affect the overall knife when it comes to in use and enjoying it for what it is. Excellent designs, excellent action, whether it's produced by that or the other. These are very recommendable, highly recommendable knives, and I love both of these, absolutely. So I will be linking down what I can in the description. I hope you guys are able to hop on getting Asher knives, because these things are just beautifully constructed, simply designed, and just meant to be used. They're not super fancy. They don't have any crazy inlays or special editions. Maybe at one point in the future, this brand might start catering to people further up the chain when it comes to fancier finishes and materials and possible inlays or options of this, that, and the other. But as it is for right now, these things are still pretty freaking sweet, and I'm very thankful to have them in the collection. So I'll link down what I can in the description. Again, go follow them on Instagram. That's how I was notified, and within a span of a month, I got 2 of them. So I'm no one special. I got no special treatment, nothing for free or anything like that. I paid for these guys and waited in line and just waited for the drop like anybody else. So with it being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, go ahead and leave a like down below. If you are subscribed, thank you so much. I appreciate all your support and your patience, of course. If you are not subscribed, please consider subscribing, because I have plenty more videos and content coming you guys this way. And with that being said, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.